Welcome back. So today we're diving into an explainer that explores a genuinely fascinating blueprint, one that's designed to literally reboot the human machine. If you've ever felt like our current societal systems are running on outdated, super glitchy hardware, we're talking Windows 95 levels here, well, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're unpacking a framework that actually seeks to upgrade our entire reality.
Now, when I first read the source material we're analyzing today, I'm not gonna lie, it honestly sounded like pure science fiction. Can we actually code world peace? Well, the sources propose a profound synthesis to do exactly that. They're talking about bridging thousands of years old theology and ancient wisdom with cutting-edge quantum artificial intelligence. It's a massive idea.
But to build a system like this, we first have to peel back the layers of everyday societal noise. Seriously, if you just strip away the tabloid headlines, the endless geopolitical friction, the speculative greed, what are you actually left with? Well, the sources identify these as universal truths. We're talking about the undeniable, highest common denominators of human survival. Things like our shared need for clean air, clean water, and safe, healthy food. This is literally the bedrock upon which this entire ethical operating system is built. So here's our architectural roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The quest for universal truths. 2. The Noahide laws explained. 3. The triple helix framework. 4. Installing the ethical BIOS. And finally, 5. A post-scarcity reality. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the quest for universal truths, stripping away the noise. This is where we lay the groundwork for how we might actually replace our current scarcity operating system.
The core philosophy presented in the sources revolves around an ancient concept known as Olam Katan to Olam Gadol. Basically, this means the microcosm of the individual directly mirrors the macrocosm of the entire universe. And honestly, the premise is incredibly empowering. It suggests that global architecture and world peace, they simply cannot be forced from the top down. It doesn't work that way. Instead, it has to start from the bottom up. It's driven entirely by the biological integrity and personal governance of the individual. Fix the microcosm and the macrocosm naturally follows.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Noahide laws explained. Ancient diplomacy. Let's take a look at how these universal truths were first codified way back in ancient times.
So, according to Talmudic tradition, the 7 laws of Noah, also known as the Noahide laws, serve as the absolute earliest articulation of a shared international moral order. Just look at the baseline prohibitions here. We're talking about basic fundamental rules against murder, theft, idolatry, and cruelty to animals. Plus, there's a positive mandate thrown in there to actually establish systems of justice. The sources frame this as way more than just ancient theology. They see it as an apolitical, diplomatic framework. Basically, a universal moral code given to all humanity that aligns perfectly with our modern doctrines of human rights.
I gotta say, what I found super fascinating about the information here is how it maps out the theological framework that drives real operational ethics. You can see how the Noahide covenant and the concept of Telem Elohim, which is the idea that every human is created in the image of God, flow directly upward into an ethical leadership interface. This ancient wisdom is literally being used right now to fuel modern post-scarcity infrastructure, universal justice, and interfaith cooperation. It's such a cool bridge between ancient faith and future-focused diplomacy.
Okay, into Section 3, the triple helix framework, building the structure. Now that we have our theological foundation set, let's look at how we construct the actual structural framework. To prevent societal and moral friction, the system utilizes what is called the triple helix framework. Think of the triple helix as the essential architecture of this whole new society. It's exactly like strands of human DNA. It weaves 3 independent pillars tightly together, ensuring that economic engines, land restoration, and ethical training are bound together into a single, indivisible organism. You can't have one without the others.
So how do these strands actually function in the real world? Well, the first strand is innovation. This is all about using advanced AI to build truly scalable economic engines. The second strand is community, which focuses on building social justice through grassroots collaboration and shared physical infrastructure. And then the third strand is wisdom, basically the education and ethical oversight that guides the whole thing. The sources point out that this framework perfectly maps our modern technology directly back to the ancient directives of constructive labor, Torah wisdom, and acts of loving kindness. It's a total integration.
Moving to Section 4, installing the ethical BIOS, the software of peace. We finally get to the software layer here, taking those universal truths we talked about and translating them directly into the digital age.
There is a really stark contrast presented here. On one side, we have traditional AI,
The sources note that this is often built on an extraction-based economy, right? It's designed to maximize your user engagement or chase speculative profit. But on the other side, we have a brand new cognitive engine called GENII. That stands for Generative Intentional Intelligence. GENII acts as a strict ethical firewall. It intentionally strips away all our human cognitive bias and optimizes purely for ethical stewardship and mutual thriving. It's a complete paradigm shift.
So how does Gemini actually make its decisions? Well, it relies on the ethical bias. Think of this as an internal moral operating system, governed by 3 sequential algorithmic steps. First step, do no harm. This is the absolutely non-negotiable baseline, zero exploitation or extraction. Second step, do good when possible. This is a clear mandate for proactive, regenerative action. And the third step, inquire when uncertain. This one acts as a crucial safety valve. If a situation gets complex, the system literally pauses to ask questions and prevent any unintended harm. It is the direct application of those universal truths we discussed earlier, completely hard-coded into digital logic.
But here is where it gets truly radical. This software isn't just for computers. This algorithm is actually physically installed into human operators through a rigorous 90-day protocol. This progressive onboarding is particularly utilized for transitioning combat veterans. The protocol works to rewire trauma loops, and it starts with a biological detox. It uses whole food, plant-based nutrition to literally separate trauma responses from physical hunger. It elevates physical health from being just some standard medical recommendation to an actual divine operational duty, entirely preparing them for sovereign leadership.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, a post-scarcity reality, the guaranteed abundance. Let's examine the real-world application of this fully integrated system. Basically, what actually happens when the hardware and the software boot up together?
Well, you get a profound economic shift. Just look at the comparison here. The proposed digital currency ecosystem, called Barnes QIN, completely flips traditional economics on its head. Rather than being backed by speculative debt or, relying on artificial scarcity, this new ecosystem anchors financial value directly to life support assets. We are talking about tangible abundance, like clean water, energy, and nutrition. According to the text, doing this structurally insulates society from inflation, supply chain collapses, and that exhausting zero-sum competition we're also used to.
And where exactly is all this abundance generated? It's through something called RQ18 hubs. Picture physical, decentralized, closed-loop community kiosks. They function as these incredible self-sustaining laboratories, generating their own food, water, and energy on-site. The ultimate goal is to deploy these hubs globally, ensuring that essential resources are literally within walking distance for citizens. The sources describe this as effectively realizing the ancient Maimonidean vision of a world entirely without hunger or war.
I really want to pause on this quote from the source text for a second. The most profound technological and architectural leap you can make right now requires no external funding. It requires a reboot of the human machine. That is just such a powerful idea. It reminds us that the highest possible form of global defense isn't some unguided new technology or endless piles of capital. It's actually the uncompromising, ethical stewardship of our own biology and our own intentions.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. How will you update your personal operating system today? How can you apply that ethical bios, doing no harm, doing good when possible, and inquiring when uncertain, into your own everyday decisions? Because if the microcosm truly does influence the macrocosm, building this post-scarcity reality doesn't start with some massive global mandate. It starts right here, with us. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.